So we're here at Property Auction Hunters and we have a guest. Before I introduce Jess to you, let's just talk briefly about the deal that she's done. So this is a back-to-back transaction where Jess is the ultimate buyer, and we're going to go through what these things mean in the video. But these are 10, 11, 15, who knows how many flats are in this block that Jess has built. We're going to be going through how you kind of got the deal in very generic terms, what the deal is. It's in Birmingham. There's the potential for huge income to come in off of this. You bought it at a very good price. We're not going to disclose that one just yet. But this is something to be excited about, because it's a back-to-back, and you need to really know what those are if you're looking to do a back-to-back transaction as a trader, if you're looking at buying something from the auction, because there's a lot of back-to-backs in the auction. So we're going to let Jess introduce herself, talk through some of the intricacies of the deal that are going to be interesting for you as viewers, and we're going to go through and actually show you what these things mean, what the impacts of those are, and how to get a deal like this done, because it is an absolute beauty. Jessica.
Okay, thank you. My name is Jess Leader, and I am the owner of Next Level Living, which is a property company that has predominantly developed and held HMOs for professional tenants. But more recently this year, I started Shorestay Group with a business partner called Mark, and our goal is to buy or create blocks of flats and then hold them and rent them to families coming out of homelessness. That's our mission. And we have an objective of housing 50 families by the end of next year. So
wow.
As we stand, it's the middle of 2024. So you can hold me to that by Christmas 2025. And this is our first deal under Shorestay Group.
Amazing. And so this deal, it's just to explain to everyone. So this is something where a trader is buying a bigger portfolio.
Yes.
And then you buying part of that portfolio, which is
exactly
a couple of properties.
It is 2 buildings technically, but it's part of a row of terraces. So on the street, there's a row of 3 and 4 story terraces, and this is 2 of those 3-story with cellar that have been knocked together and combined into one block of 11 flats. So there's 8 studios, 2 1-beds and a 2-bed.
Okay. So pretty solid kind of combination of and those studios are quite large, or
no, they're really
tiny?
small. Actually, they're really small. They are between 31 and 34 square meters.
Oh, so that's pretty decent then. Like, because usually studios you can expect like 50.
Early 20s.
Well, you're used to London properties as well.
Yes,
so,
yeah.
Stick a shower in a room, and that's an ensuite bedroom and studio. So no, they are. They have a separate. They all have a separate kitchen, separate bathroom, and then a studio room. Well, I suppose according to London, that isn't a studio. That's a 1-bed potentially, but it depends who you ask, maybe. But
yeah, I mean, if the living room doubles up as a bedroom, then technically it's a studio. Yeah,
but it has separate kitchen and separate bathroom, and because our tenant profile is LHA benefit recipients, we are working with the local councils and the council collectives to firstly tenant it, to fill it, but also they've helped us to structure what the offering is and what the rooms types are and the property types are. So according to the council, those are 1-bed properties because of the separate quarters, separate kitchen facilities.
Amazing.
Which is surprising to us.
So basically there's the first seller, then there's a trader, and then who's buying bigger portfolio, buying this one small, like not small, but like one property out of the bigger portfolio. And what's your plan with it? What's like, you're gonna rent it out to LHA tenants?
Exactly
fully,
that.
And then refinance it?
Exactly. So our initial plan isn't what our plan is now, given what has transpired from the auction pack. But we were originally going to buy it cash, tenant it from day one. We've had a guarantee of day one full tenancy from the council. So our initial plan was to tenant it straight away as 11 family units and then refinance it onto a term product. and because the rent is going to jump quite significantly from where it has been. Now we have learned of some planning restrictions, which mean that we won't be able to do that straight away. So we've got a two-phase approach now. So we will be renting it as 10 units to start with, going through planning permission to lift some very historic, according to our planning consultant, very liftable planning restrictions.
Okay.
And then once we've got the 11 households fully in place, then we will put it onto the term product. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. And what kind of income this is going to be generating?
So day one now, it will be reduced to 84.5 grand gross. And at phase two, which was our initial plan, and now it's phase two, it will be 98.5 grand gross. So it will be cash flowing probably, not hugely differently from a really large HMO. So it will be cash flowing net probably around 2.5 grand when you consider I'm taking everything off of that, including corporation tax. So everything is coming off that, but around 2.5 grand a month.
Oh wow, that's really good.
Yeah.
So what issues did you encounter in this, being the recipient of a back-to-back, that you're kind of, this is happening, I'm not sure why it's happening, and maybe we can have a stab in the dark at what we think may be happening, and there could be some good learnings for the viewers.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll try and go in chronological order. So firstly, the delays. So our first issue was we agreed to buy this property. Our offer was accepted right at the end of January, and we believed that the auction pack would be coming through pretty quickly. I'm calling it an auction pack because these properties were to be going through auction, but they were in the end traded privately outside of an auction room.
Yeah.
So it is still officially an auction pack, but we finally got that in August. And firstly, why would we have such a long delay if the properties were supposedly ready in January to now?
Okay, so my guess, and I think Piotr might agree on this one, is because the person backing it to you was buying a larger portfolio, so as to not attract stamp duty, they are trying to line up every single trade to sell out at the same time. So whilst he had a guaranteed buyer in you for this this block, there may be 5 or 6 other blocks where he was waiting to click those buyers into place. So when you're completing on the blank of blank, he will be hoping that everybody will be completing on the blank of blank, so that his position is overreached. The transaction will technically skip him straight down to you guys, and being that middleman, the kind of filling in the sandwich, means that he gets to claim the stamp duty sub-sale tax relief. So that's one less frictional cost he has to take into consideration. And because it wasn't happening at auction, his solicitor and the ultimate seller are able to kick the can down the road, because a really important part of a back-to-back isn't necessarily price, it's all about timing. You have to exchange and complete on the top contract, which is seller to buyer, and then has to exchange and complete on seller to buyer, so your trader to you, on the same day. Normally, it's done with the right solicitors in place simultaneously, minutes in between. And that way, the person in the middle, the filling in the sandwich, seller, ultimate buyer, trader in the middle, that person's whole focus is making sure that they're selling the items that they don't want. So maybe let's say they're buying 10 things, they only want 2 or 3. That means they now have to find a buyer for 7 or 8 properties, and they want to do that simultaneously, because now there's no stamp duty saving for multiple dwellings relief, right? So they really have to structure this to not be liable for any stamp duty at all, and that's my gut feeling.
Maybe, but I think they're buying at the price where they don't care about stamp duty that much, and it would work for them to buy it anyway. But I think with housing association, there is always delays with them providing information. Some of them are really badly organized, and they don't know where the documents are and stuff. So it might be that the trader hasn't bought those properties yet and hasn't got all the information, and basically they maybe haven't even exchanged contracts on them. They could just pretend that we've got a contract, but nothing's been finalized yet. So maybe they were waiting for the information. Who knows?
I expect from what we were seeing on our side, there's definitely an element of that, potentially an element of that too, but we asked several times for proof that the transaction was actually taking place at top level. So we eventually got that contract, just so that we could see that the intermediary trader had the ability to transfer. So there was definitely a delay on that. And
was it like dated and signed, and you could see all the information, or just
I haven't
parts?
seen it. The solicitor's happy with it. I haven't seen it.
Why not?
I don't know.
They probably don't want you to know how much
Well, they
they
won't
paid
want to know
for
the
it.
price, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's fine. I don't mind.
If the trader can send it to your solicitor redacted, or they can send it to your solicitor and say, it's an unredacted version, but you're being kept, there's privity of contract. So he's basically looped your solicitor into the privacy of that contract. So he is aware of it. It's a legitimate contract, but he cannot tell you certain things because there's a confidence between the release of that document. So
yeah, and that's fine. I mean, it would probably sting if we knew what the ultimate purchase price was, but ultimately, if everybody is making
yeah,
exactly. If everyone's happy with what they're doing, then that's fine, right?
You think I cannot lose at this level, then it doesn't matter if they paid half of that.
Well, exactly. Everyone's done what they want to do.
Wins.
And also that we're paying like a price, let's say 2 million for 10 properties or whatever it is, and they taking a different risk than you're taking with just buying one property, and obviously you're buying it at a price where you know what to do to make this cash flow amount that you require, and it's a different risk, so it's a different conversation. And also they're buying straight from housing associations. Those deals are not that kind of regular, because housing associations, they like to just throw something in the auction and then actually use that transparency of the process in the auction to sell things. So I think you probably are doing well, and as long as you're happy with it, it doesn't matter what they're paying.
Exactly.
It just matters what works for you.
It's something that we say to a lot of people that are buying something at auction, and we unravel the fact, this is being traded. The standard approach that people take is that they get so obsessed with how much do they pay for it. It doesn't matter. Their metrics, their price is their business. Your metrics, your price is your business. So if it works for you, that's your focus. If you start thinking about them and the fact that they've made some money, all of a sudden you're not going to get a deal done.
No,
it's going to get into your head.
But actually, one reason that to continue talking about some of the issues that we've had with this property, or the challenges that we've got around, one of the reasons that we wanted to see the contract, partly so that we could ensure ability to transfer, was that we needed to get an indemnity insurance.
Yes.
So we needed to know what the ultimate purchase price was. We still don't. And so getting that indemnity insurance has been a real challenge. So this was a learning for me.
For what?
Insolvency. So we were originally buying this as a cash purchase. It took so long that we ended up looking at a bridge because things move. We've actually come full circle and we're now buying it cash again. But in the meantime, we were looking at getting funding for this, and the lender wanted to make sure that the top seller isn't about to go bust, basically, and they wanted to get indemnity insurance against that. And I've learned that the two things that they need are either proof of original sale price or a solvency declaration. Now, when you're not in direct contact with the top seller, it's difficult to get a solvency declaration, and when the top seller doesn't necessarily know that it's being traded on, again, the intermediary isn't going to ask for that. So that's been a real challenge, getting solvency indemnity.
So for those that don't know, you get the insolvency indemnity because if they are about to go bust, what can happen is the receivers, once the business goes insolvent, can look at the past X number of months worth of transactions, and if they feel that something untoward has happened, they can actually repeal those transactions. They can seek to have those undone. So it's a very fine point of being at the bottom end of a back-to-back. At the top end, it doesn't really matter. But that's stuff that's kind of missed quite a lot. Not if you're cash, and some bridges kind of don't focus on that either if there's a proper warranty of transfer taking place, but it is something to focus on.
But even if which we are now buying cash again, I still want to have that, because it doesn't, the method of funding it is totally irrelevant to whether someone's going to come after me for the difference, basically.
Well, it would be worse. They would be undoing the transaction.
Yeah, but I think those situations
happen so rarely.
Yeah, those situations are very rare. But obviously, lenders want to make sure that they're protected because it's their money on the line. Like those back-to-back transactions are actually very frequent in the auctions.
Yeah,
they happen literally.
And you get none of these solvency done at auction at all.
Yeah, and though probably like 60-70% of auction transactions are probably back-to-back transactions, or some sort of like
or subject to exchange delayed completions, an option or two. They're becoming more popular again at auction. So yeah, we're seeing a lot more stuff like that.
Hi, I'm Michael Allison. I'm the Commercial Director at Roma Finance, and I'm delighted to tell you that Roma Finance have the Flow Bridging range, which is specifically designed for those fast completions, which have come in handy when you're looking at purchasing a property at auction. If you want to know more, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Thank you.
And obviously, sometimes the buyers are not even aware they're on the receiving end of a back-to-back transaction, but there are certain things in the special conditions that you can see that will highlight to people that, okay, this is someone who doesn't own the property yet, but they have a contractual right to sell it. And it's important to be aware of those. But I think it's really good that you knew from the start that it's a back-to-back, and you were quite kind of how do you say it, like conscious of that process,
and prepared to go through with it, because that puts a lot of people off if they're aware of it.
Someone who was put off was our solicitor originally. So we thought, obviously we had months between when we had agreed the property and when we actually ended up putting it into motion, but we thought we'd been very clear with our solicitor that this is a back-to-back transaction. And when it actually came to it, we had originally a week from receiving the auction pack to recommitting to the deal and saying yes, we still want to go ahead. That got contracted to 3 days, and on day 2 of those 3 days, our solicitor said, this is a back-to-back, our company has a policy, we absolutely don't touch them, and it's fraud. I remember saying this to you.
She was
really
very hard stance on it,
very firm, which is when you question, does she not know about the
I think the fraud is her university degree.
Well, she's clearly good at her lane, and this isn't her lane, and that's fine. It's just about getting another specialist, which you kindly put me in touch with.
And that's the thing, like there are solicitors who will just use those big words and those kind of, it's this, it's that, because they're just afraid of what might happen to their firm if something goes wrong, and they have no idea how to actually structure those things. The same when it comes to option contracts and buying something where someone has an option and you buying it from them. A lot of solicitors are like, what's happening here? And also structuring something where you are the back-to-back seller to someone. It's knowing about the stamp duty reliefs and stuff like that. A lot of solicitors, if they haven't done it, it's not something that you learn at university, I guess.
But I mean, your solicitor's position, you can't be too upset with them, because if you go back to 2010, when you were getting a lot of the mortgage fraud stuff, actually it was similar, like not essentially a back-to-back, but it was basically people who were exchanging, taking the deposits, then selling it on without completing. So it was that kind of rogue trader attitude. And that kind of, a lot of solicitors are like, well, now we know that was how they were roughly doing it. Anything that looks like that, we're afraid of. So you just need solicitors that understand how to underwrite that risk, how to make sure that they're requesting the correct documents to make sure that this person owned it, this person is in contract with the right to sell it to you, and that chain is unbroken. You just have to do proper work on it, and it's specialist.
So
good. Good.
So yeah, on day 2, we moved over to a new solicitor who hadn't worked with us before, and suddenly I was requesting priority with a new with a new solicitor who did actually come up trumps.
Yeah, no, they are. They're very, very good. We've had them on the channel before, and have some recordings coming up with them again. Not that well, actually, yeah, him specifically and 2 or 3 others,
Okay.
but they're really very good. They're very good.
Okay. So still on the question of what was up with the property and what challenges we had. So
Yeah.
when I shared the legal pack with him, my covering note said, it's light. And he got it back and said, you're not joking, because it was literally, I think it was all the EPCs, the title, plan and register, and a list of conditions. That was the pack.
That was it.
That was the pack. And there was no top
Property
contract,
information form,
no property
nothing.
information, nothing like that whatsoever. And so, yeah, one thing that was in there. So obviously there was a lot that we were doing at our own risk, or having sold a scene, that kind of stuff. But we had seen the property a few times and are very comfortable with it. I feel like we haven't yet completed as we record this. So I'm saying I'm comfortable with it. That seems good. I've done quite a lot of work on it, so I'm sure it's fine. But one thing that was in the special conditions was a planning restriction, which had not come up in our research, which was to say that so as I mentioned, the building is set up as 11 flats. The planning restriction said only the current housing, or only a registered housing association, is able to use it as 11 flats. And that's our model. Keep it as 11 flats, rent it out to social tenants. So that was challenging. And it said in the pack, the buyer has seen a copy of this planning permission and is comfortable with it. Well, this planning permission was nowhere to be found anywhere. But actually, as I was saying to you earlier, as it transpired, that planning permission was connected to a different property in the portfolio, and the trader's solicitor, or the trader, or whoever in the team, hadn't noticed that the wrong planning permission had been included in the pack for this property as opposed to one of the others. So actually we had quite a lot of stress about that, because we'd waited 6 months for the building. We didn't want it anymore if we couldn't use it as flats without going through planning. But luckily that oversight is all it was from their side after a 24-hour panic and a bit of help from our planning consultant.
Well, that definitely will keep you awake.
It did.
Keeps you focused.
It did. It was very stressful. And now there are some restrictions on it, which are limiting the income for a short period of time, as I say, from the 98 to the 84, which are that the planning restriction now is that 10 of the units can be let. One of them has to be a manager's office for a manager in residence.
Okay.
And the other one is that some of the flats can only be rented to single occupants, and our model is to help vulnerable families. Now, that's okay. We obviously consulted with the planning consultant before we exchanged on this, and 2 separate planning consultants, mine and Mark's, both of whom felt that they were something that could be overturned and appealed, which is what gave us the confidence to go ahead. But it just, where the phasing came in, it means we'll still be able to house people coming out of homelessness. Not all of them will be families in phase 1, but then when we've overturned that planning successfully, then we're back to where we wanted to be. So quite a few things.
It keeps you mobile being in a deal like this, right? Because the sands are shifting all the time, and you've got to keep your feet. And to keep your feet, you have to be ultra aware of how these different things that come up are affecting the deal, right?
Yeah.
So how did you, being in a back-to-back for your first time, how did you handle the stress, apart from copious amounts of alcohol? How did you deal with the stress of this?
I called you. So thank you again. How did I cope with the stress? I definitely felt the pressure of this, because it being my first back-to-back, it's new territory, and that's both exciting and daunting on something that's quite complex. And also, I mentioned that I run Shaw's Day with my partner. He was away getting married, so it's not like he was on normal holiday. I didn't actually want to contact him on his wedding day and say, these are the stresses, but I did have a duty to make him aware of the risks so that we could share the appetite for them.
Yeah.
Luckily, we learned we have the same risk appetite,
Stunning.
which was really great. But I think just working through them and trusting people who I believed would be the best people to advise me, because it's new, I don't know, but you have to get the best people around you. And I really did learn the value of paying more for better people, actually, with this, really, particularly the solicitor, because I felt safe in his hands, even though I'd never worked with him before, because he clearly was asking a different level of question. And just logically following everything through, what is the worst case scenario of this? What could happen? What's the likelihood? I remember one message to you, what's the likelihood of this one coming up? And you're like, not really likely at all. So it's just a normal risk assessment of how much is going to hit the fan, how badly is it going to hit the fan, and what's the chances of that happening, and getting those multipliers in place and seeing where you're at.
Yeah, I think you mentioned before we started the video about one of the phrases from our previous past videos, where we said that traders don't really solve problems. They buy things with problems, they price it, and then they pass
them on to someone else.
And you are on the receiving end of it, where you have to like take those problems. They still price. You have a different vision for the property than the trader would have, and you know how to solve those problems, and then eventually get paid for having solved them. And I think. Wow.
Let's go. Let's have a stage 2 of this when it's all completed and in 12
Season
months.
2 is coming in 12 months.
And we can see where we go. Yeah, exactly.
But what would be interesting is obviously you've exchanged, you haven't completed yet. You're still in the middle of the transaction technically, right? There's stuff that still needs to be handled between exchange and completion, but you're at the bottom end of a back-to-back. Is the next step being at the top end of a back-to-back? So buying something and then back-to-backing it onto somebody else, is that kind of... Do you want to try the flip side of that arrangement? Are you kind of keen to be?
No.
No?
I think you would, but you don't know it yet.
Maybe. Maybe.
I think like being on the back-to-back, on the top end of the back-to-back, feels like stressful, because you have to line up everything to almost perfection. You have to like manage people, manage information, and the flow of everything. But at the same time, like you literally get paid the moment someone buys it from you, and that's the best thing about those back-to-backs, which is you take zero risks when you eventually complete on the property, because second later it's sold to someone else. But you do a lot of effort up front, and also you have to get good enough deals to be able to trade to someone, or you have to have a buyer ready for this type of property that you're buying. So
I mean, brilliant. Ultimately, it's not, I would do it if the opportunity arose, but they don't arise. You have to create them, and I'm not seeking those right now. I want to, my motivation in my property business is about social impact now. That's not to say I wouldn't do it, but it does. I mean, lining up 10 buyers in one go, or however many's in the portfolio, is just stressful, and it stresses me when I can't control something.
I think sometimes people think like you have to create those opportunities, but maybe there will be situations where, I don't know, you offer a portfolio of 5 properties but only 4 work for you, and then that one is like, I don't want it, why don't I just sell it in the auction in the back-to-back, and then you create that opportunity yourself because of the
scenario calls for it.
I mean, I definitely I felt quite brave, to venture into this uncharted territory, even though it's been done. It's a path that's been trodden 1,000 times by 1,000 people. It was new, and so I don't feel like back-to-back is completely overwhelming. I would go into it because I know a tiny bit about it now.
Now you have a team of people, and you're actually aware of contracts and things. So I think you do well. We'll see. Season 2 is coming.
I think it can happen.
Yeah. And if you guys want to find out more about those back-to-back transaction, creative deal structures, we'll be running a Portugal retreat on auction trading and trading in general. And this is going to be early October. And if you want to find out more about this, click the link below and let us know, get in touch with us, and let's see.
Yeah, so the focus of that retreat is find the deals, fund the deals, format the deals, so the structure of the deals, and then flip when it's trading. So we've got the 4 Fs, and the last day is going to be fun, so 5 Fs. But the idea here is, how do you create how do you create that pipeline of deals to be able to get the right funding, to be able to structure them in a tax efficient way, and get them sold. So yeah, if you're looking at doing more deals or ramping up your transactions for the end of this year, beginning of next, then it's the place to be.
Brilliant. And if you want to find out more about RFB Legal, which where the solicitors acting for Jessica, find out this video over here that where we talked about some shortlist flats with John O'Callaghan from RFB. And make sure you subscribe to our channel, like our videos, comment underneath, and who knows, maybe you can come on our channel in the future and talk about some amazing deals you've done.